A reading from the Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said to them, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have come not to abolish, but to fulfill. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth pass away, not one letter, not one stroke of a letter will pass from the law until all is accomplished. Therefore, whoever breaks one of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven." The word of the Lord. I want to speak today on the idea of what does it mean to hold on to a tradition? What does it mean to change and embrace the new and evolve? And where is there overlap in those things? We hear Jesus in this story coming into the lives, particularly the lives of the scribes and the Pharisees, who he's addressing here, and talking about seemingly changing their world. And the accusation is he's come to take all of their rules and their laws and throw them away. And Jesus pushes back, as we hear him frequently do, to say, I'm all about preserving the law. I'm not coming to change the law on you. Your tradition is important to me. But I want us to continue to embrace that tradition as our world changes and grows, and as we change and grow as people. Notice that really at the heart of the law and the prophets is this idea of loving God and loving your neighbor. If you look through the Old Testament stories, you can see a real growth arc of the people in what it meant to love God and love your neighbor. You can see a time where it used to mean, I love my God better than your God. As long as my God will help me to win the wars, that means my God is better than your God. Well, we evolved and changed beyond an understanding of the God that's able to triumph in battle is the best God. We've evolved past the understanding of if someone hurts me, they are no longer my neighbor, and it means I can enact unlimited retribution and war upon their families and generations. We evolved to the idea of saying, you know what, proportional justice, just an eye for an eye. You take out my eye, I get to take out your eye. And then what Jesus is saying is, you know what, I'm not taking away the tradition. I'm not taking away the law and the prophets to say love God and love your neighbor, but we've evolved past proportional justice to say, you know what, when someone hurts me, my job is to actually continue to seek justice and compassion and to make this world the kind of world where we don't hurt each other. That is my response to being hurt. He's not taking away the law, but rather showing them how we can continue to grow with it. We do this a lot in our church. We certainly do this a lot in the Episcopal Church as we embrace ideas of how our worship changes and evolves over the years. How you could, on the one hand, say we're no longer worshiping the way we did as kids in the church. We're no longer worshiping the way we did in the 20th century. We're certainly not worshiping the way the first Christians did in the first century. Does that mean we've thrown out our traditions? What is our tradition? Maybe if our tradition is to always connect the people, our people, with God and each other in a way that is meaningful and feeds us, then as the world changes and evolves around us, that means the way we worship may change and evolve, but we're actually not throwing away the tradition if the tradition is to always be relevant and real and connect people with God and each other. We talk in our prayer book, in our multi-year, multi-decade arc over Episcopal prayer book reform, and we talk about traditional language and new language as if our tradition has not always been about, as our language evolves, our prayers evolve with them. We no longer speak to one another the way Thomas Cranmer and his compatriots did in the 1500s. As our language evolved in the 1600s, the 1700s, the 1800s, and so on, our language continued to evolve. And so So maybe the idea of what is traditional is maintaining a current and approachable language that is the way people speak to one another. Now, for all of the people who like the old ways that we worship before and the old languages of our prayer books, I don't mean to say to you all that there's no value in thinking of that as being traditional. But what I am saying is there's more than one view on what is our tradition. And just as Jesus invites the Pharisees, the scribes, and his disciples to have a broader understanding of what does it mean to maintain and follow the law and the prophets in a changing world, I invite us to be a part of a conversation about how do we maintain our traditions and values even in the midst of changing needs and contexts. And I think we can only benefit from continuing to be in the discussion with one another. Amen.